What's up, traders? This is Vee Trades, and today I will be doing a technical analysis breakdown for strategy B with the ticker symbol MSTR. I will first be going over what I've seen in the daily chart and finish the video off with the weekly chart. This video is for entertainment purposes only. Please trade at your own risk. So MSTR had a very bullish Friday, but today was a down day. Kind of an indecision candle, but still bearish because price closed at the 358 level on Friday, and we opened up much lower than that, so we gapped down and we traded a little sideways. So is this a bearish looking candle or bullish looking candle? Technically it is bearish, but overall it's neutral. It really doesn't show any particular direction that the market wants to trend in. However, it's still bearish. Why? Because we're still below this downward sloping trend line and we're still below the 360 level. The longer we stay below these levels, the more bearish it is. If it was going to be bullish, it would quickly reverse back above it. So it looks like we probably have come back to maybe retest that level as resistance. As you can see here, support, support, and now it broke down, probably testing as resistance because we're closing below it still. Or it could be dragged up a little bit higher. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be exact. It was still below it nonetheless. Still below the trend line, still below the EMA. So I'd say this is still a downtrend. However, in the short term, it was looking like we could potentially see a reversal higher. So what would invalidate the bearish prediction would be a strong break of the trend line, followed by a small correction would be bullish. Or what we can also do is break the trend line and just continue trending up higher, something like this without seeing a significant pullback. So you don't want to see either or, but you don't want to see his price staying below the 360 level on the trend line. That means we're still on our way lower. As you can see here, they did buy more Bitcoin, added 3,081 to their holdings to bring the total to 632,457 with an average cost of 73,527. The thing about this is they just bought it at 115,829. So now they're in the water with the holdings that they have. Technically, for the past couple of months now, they're in the water for all these purchases. So technically, this Bitcoin is actually a liability. You know, it would be crazy to say that, but if it's not putting money in your pocket, it's not really an asset at that moment in time. It's a liability. So if I'm a MicroStrategy investor, I'm like, can you guys stop buying Bitcoin? Because what if we go into a bear market, which we eventually will, and if you continue to average into a bear market, well, that's not a good sign. I don't want, me personally, I would not want a company I'm buying to be buying in a bear market consistently. You want to just maybe do like a smash buy at the lows if you know how to read a chart. That's why I said they should have bought, hired a professional trader, someone who's a professional who does this for a living, who's like a quant trader or he's on Wall Street or a hedge fund manager, someone who can actually read a price chart, do it for a living, and tell them, hey, it's probably not the best thing to buy Bitcoin right now because it's in a downtrend. If you look at this macro chart for Bitcoin, I use the swings off the lows to form a channel, a trend line, and then you drag it up to the high. That fits pretty good. Looks like we just hit the top side of this trend line, and now it's working on a decline back down to the $90,000 level. That is the opposite side of the trend line. What would invalidate that is that we were above this bullish trend line, but it failed to hold right here. Now we back tested it for resistance. We're breaking that sideways trading pattern, and we are working our way down. Measure move target currently at 105, 106. So 106,000 is probably where it's headed as of right in the short term. But if we repeat what we have done before when we hit the top side of the channel, is you copy these bars, you bring it over. So that fits pretty good. It looks like we could be going all the way down for the whole month of September. Historically, if you look at September for Bitcoin, it's one of the most bearish months, I believe, and it's on average it's a negative return for the month of September. So historically, seasonally, September is not a good month for Bitcoin. It doesn't have to happen all the time, but the technicals are, foreshadowing that of occurring. Another red month for September, and it looks like the entire month could be red because if you just copy the same bars that we previously did, then it would take probably till early October before we see a bottom. So who knows if that will exactly happen. That's my prediction. My prediction is that this is a nice fitting channel, and then you can look at the weekly chart for that as well. So this fits pretty nicely. This is just a summarized viewpoint of it. You can see that we had a nice uptrend, price making higher highs, higher lows. All of a sudden, we had a high right at the top side of the channel. This is a very similar pattern that would happen previously. So this double top right here is exactly what's happening right now. We hit the top side of the channel in the first attempt. We pulled back, and then we tried to make another drive up, and it failed just above the prior high, and then it sold off for about a month. Same thing right here. We hit the top side of the channel, corrected, tried to make another drive up, barely past the previous high, a marginal high, and now we're selling off. So the next support or strong one is right around here, 90,000, which is the opposite side of the channel. We could have stopped going there, but the trend line did break. This bullish trend line could have held prices, and we could have kept on, trading above it. So for example, if I extrapolate the trend line that we probably should have held, then it would be something like this. We would keep on doing this. But now it's respecting this more slanted trend line instead of the steeper one, and it looks like it's trying to drop down lower. So obviously it's easier said than done, or it's obviously in hindsight it's easier to say. Even though I purchased myself Bitcoin at 116,000, I just didn't want to. Mine is more of a long-term hold. I don't really care if it goes down. I don't even care if it goes down to 50,000. Me personally, this is more of a long-term trade for me, and I can hold it for that long and average down. But the best part was not to buy, it was to wait. Why? Because if you were to buy off that big green candle, you would need to assume that the bulls are strong, which they have shown you that they're not, because they could make a marginal high. We had a high right here, corrected lower. Bulls made a marginal high. We sold off. Do you really want to be on their team buying back over here? Probably not after what they did. So now we're selling off, breaking down lower. Maybe we bottom at 105. We don't have to go that much lower. That is the measuring target, so we can see a technical bounce from there. So everyone will be saying, oh, Vee Trades thinking we're going 90,000 and we don't go there. Well, obviously, it's not guaranteed we get there, but that is the next possible level if we don't stop at 105, 106. Because right now it's headed for 105, 106, and then let's see if we get a strong bounce from there or not. If not, I'm looking for 90,000. That is the opposite side of the trend channel. That price has been respecting basically, since late October or late 2023, early 2024. So MSTR most likely will be continuing down lower as you see after market. Me personally, why did I sell out of MSTR is because it wasn't bullish anymore. I was bullish until right about here, I would say. Exactly right about here. Once we made that lower high right here, I was like, okay, this thing is done. If Bitcoin's going to continue higher, this will continue higher, but it's not going to go to what I expected it to. So what's the point of holding something that has more risk? In my opinion, I don't want to hold MSTR. If this thing doubles, I'm pretty sure Bitcoin is also going to do a significant amount as well, probably less risk. And if Bitcoin goes down, this one will basically have no chance of going up. Can it? It can, but I would be pretty shocked if it starts, diverging against Bitcoin now when before for a whole entire year it has not done that. Bitcoin has made new highs. This one has not. So this stock is pretty much could be topped out. You have to be open to all the possible situations. So whenever the Bitcoin holdings, again, if they continue to buy, I would say that's turning into a liability. And it would make sense why the price is dropping, because the market is scared that, hey, they're going to continue to buy more Bitcoin in the short term. Obviously, in the long term, it's probably going to be the most valuable company in the world. And the Bitcoin will be able to, bring them to that standing. But in the short term, market participants are worried that, hey, if they continue to buy Bitcoin and average into a bear market, well, the stock price will reflect that. Let's take a look at the ratio between Bitcoin's price, MSTR's price. It's dropping. So right now, obviously Bitcoin is dropping down after market from the stock market's close, and we're seeing a drop. But again, we're approaching a potential support where we can see a move up higher, which means MSTR will start underperforming Bitcoin. And this is also an important chart right here. This is Bitcoin. This is gold's price, about 3,300 divided by Bitcoin's price, about 110,000, gets you to about 0.33 or 0.3067 points. So you can see that obviously this chart means that Bitcoin will continue to outperform gold over time, and it's going to take a lot more gold to buy one Bitcoin. But in the near term, we barely made a where is the chart? Yeah, right here. So this is the 2021 low of this ratio, and we barely made a new high from that, outperformance in gold. So you see that it's starting to move up higher now. So it looks like gold is going to continue to hold its value or move up higher, and Bitcoin will continue to devalue against gold, at least in the short term. So that's what the chart is telling me. So Bitcoin overall, it just looks bearish. I don't like how we did not see any follow through after Friday's candle, and then we saw a reversal down. Now we're breaking support. We broke through this double bottom. I don't think it's going to reverse just because of that. We're headed down lower towards 105, 106. We're below the trend line, below the EMA. In the macro as well, if you look at the the bigger picture, it looks like we're due for a bigger decline, something like this, right over here, because we hit the top side of the channel. We had a double top here coming from the top side of the channel. it's looking like 90,000 would be the potential target. And then from there, you could also make the prediction that we're going to make probably one last run up. So 90,000 late September, early October, probably the final run up into November, December before we see the top. So it could be like a V bottom. That would take you to probably the top of the cycle, maybe in December, maybe even later, 170,000. That is the measuring target. So that's all I have for Bitcoin MSTR. Let's take a look at the weekly chart. Weekly chart is bearish. We gap down. We could go back up from the gap at 360, but we don't have to do that. And overall, it's pretty much doing the same playbook as it did right back over here. It almost looks like an identical chart back here in 2021 when it had that peak right over here. So it looks like a very similar pattern. This and right where we are right now is right where we sold off harshly in the past. So again, I was bullish on MSTR, but you have to have invalidation levels. Like, where are you going to get out if this continues dropping down lower? I mean, again, not financial advice. You can do whatever you want. You can continue to buy or hold. But me personally, I had invalidation level and it already hit it. I'm out of the stock. It did not perform as I expected. I was giving it, the benefit of the doubt. If it had a top, I was like, okay, well, let's see if we can make another run up. And then the bulls tried multiple attempts right here and they failed. Now we're looking bearish with Bitcoin dropping as well. I mean, yeah, I just pretty much doing the towel for MSTR and I swapped over to BTC as of right now. But we'll see what happens. But overall, the weekly chart not looking good. I think the last line in the sand for MSTR would be probably this trend line right here. You can draw a trend line from this swing to this swing. Looks like we did see a bounce off of that on last week. So let's see if we get that bounce here. If this breaks this trend line, I mean, expect to come back to the low 300s, possibly even, the 250s and maybe even lower. Let's just say we have topped. In the last cycle, look at what happened. When price topped, how much did it drop? From the top to the low, it dropped 90%. It dropped 90%. Now, let's just say we drop 80%. Let's say we have already topped. Let's just say we drop 80%. 80% would take it right back to about $110. About $106, $110. 80% if we have top. And that's not 90%. Let's say we drop 90%. Where does that go? 90% is sub 100. You're looking at like $60 for one share. If you drop the same amount as we did previously, and if this is a top, you're going back to $60. If you just drop 80%, you go back down to, what was it, $100 or something like that, 110. It was about $100. Let's say we do make another pump up higher. Let's say we go to $700 from here, which is pretty unlikely as of right now. Let's say we go to $700 and we drop 80%. Even if you drop 80% from $700, that's $138 per share. So even if you have a double from here and you drop 80% in a bear market, which you will get bear markets, it's not going to go forever. Even gold, bigger market than MSTR and Bitcoin combined, it has bear markets. The S&P 500 has bear markets, and that's one of the largest indices in the world, has bear markets. So if this drops 80%, you look at 138. I'm just letting you guys know. So let's see what happens, how this develops. Things are looking bearish. And it looks like we can continue to expect bearish price action. I'm always open to changing my mind and changing my prediction, but I would let the technicals do that. If we could see a strong break of this downward sloping trend line and break above the 112, 113 and continue to move up higher, then all bets are off for the downside and things look bullish, but it doesn't look like that's going to be changing anytime soon. So all that for MSTR on the daily and weekly chart. Went over Bitcoin, their purchase and Bitcoin's gold against Bitcoin. So Vee Trades, and thank you for your time.